From Joel's daughter dying in his arms in the very first episode to Joel ending up on the brink of death in the more recent ones, the first season of The Last of Us has been a roller coaster. According to this star from the series, it's only about to get a lot more controversial. In an interview, Bella Ramsey, the actor who plays Ellie in the Netflix series, said that the season finale will leave fans divided. In her words, it's going to divide people massively.
Why are you telling me all of this?
Because you can handle it. The way the others can't. They need God. They need heaven. They need a father. You don't. You're beyond that.
Now that we're 8 episodes in, with just another one to go, you probably see what she's talking about. Every episode is crazier and sadder than the last. If you're one of the many people who've played the game, you already know what's coming. But if you haven't and want to avoid spoilers, then this would be a good time to click out of this video. For those of you who are still here, let's get into it. The ending of the story of part 1 of the game was pretty controversial. Joel and Ellie finally find what they've been looking for the entire time: a hospital run by the Fireflies. In the game, this is the point when Joel is supposed to hand Ellie over to the doctors so they can use her to create the vaccine.
You can't save her. Even if you get her out of here, then what? How long before she's torn to pieces by a pack of clickers? That is, if she hasn't been raped and murdered first.
It ain't for you to decide.
It's what she'd want.
When the duo arrives at the facility, they're both unconscious after being attacked by a bunch of fireflies. When Joel regains consciousness, he finds himself lying on a hospital bed, and Marlene tells him about the fireflies' plans for Ellie. What plans, you ask? Well, to make the vaccine, they need more than just a bit of Ellie's blood. They need part of her brain to make the cure, which would leave her dead. And this is the part that Bella Ramsey thinks will leave viewers divided. Joel, in true Joel fashion, goes off on a rampage around the hospital. He kills any and all fireflies standing in his way of Ellie. He's eventually successful in saving Ellie from the doctors and escapes from the hospital with her in his arms. When she wakes up, she finds herself in the back seat of the car. She asks him about what went down at the facility since she was out of it the entire time. He lies to her, telling her that they couldn't use her to make a vaccine, so they let her go, which was not the truth. Ellie even made him swear that everything he told her is the truth. Well, are we on the same page as Miss Ramsey now? The reaction to it was just as divisive back when the game came out. Players had extremely split viewers over Joel's ultimate decision to save Ellie over the entire human race. Even though it's been like 9 years since the first part of the game was released, people are still arguing over it. Most people believe that Joel should have at least told Ellie the truth about the whole thing, rather than keeping it from her. Others think he was only doing what he thought was best for her. The two had spent enough time together, and been through enough for her to develop fatherly feelings toward her. Was he just supposed to let her die? Finding out the girl you've been protecting needs to die to possibly save the world? Not really an easy decision. So, will the series be following the same ending? Well, from what I know about the series so far, as well as the creators' plans for the show, the story will be sticking to that from the game. The game's ending was controversial and divisive, sure, but it was also super memorable and impactful. That's what makes this story so different. So it would be a terrible choice for HBO to deviate from that. But what that means is that the internet needs to prepare itself for what's to come from the fan base. Viewers watching the story for the first time are going to be just as devastated and caught off guard as gamers were the first time. I expect all sides will be defending their opinions just as aggressively, and there's a bunch of sides to take. Some people were understandably sad about it, but they fully expected the story to set Joel up as the hero. They expected him to give up the one thing he'd grown to care about since the death of his daughter, all to save the world. After all, that's typically how these stories end. The needs of the many are almost always prioritized over the needs of the individual. But The Last of Us isn't your typical story, is it? It makes a bold choice for its narrative and sticks with it. The game doesn't let you make a choice when it comes to this final bit. The protagonist doesn't resign themselves to fate, and the characters behave the way they're set up to behave. There's literally no ambiguity about what Joel does after finding out that Ellie's life is in danger. He straight up murders everyone standing in his way, even Marlene, all for Ellie. At the same time, he potentially destroys the world's only chance at finding a cure.
Wait! Let me go. Please.
You just come after her.
Some people may call that selfish, but it's not as simple as that. There are others out there who were truly upset over the whole thing. They argued that even though the Fireflies may not have had the most ethical methods, they were still at least trying to fix the world. The lives of millions took precedence over the life of one girl. They went so far as to suggest that Joel saved Ellie for selfish reasons rather than to help her, all because he couldn't bear to lose a daughter twice. Still, others agreed that Joel's act was reprehensible, but at the same time said that they understood where he was coming from, considering everything he'd been through. What else would the point of all that character building be? Everything before this point was meant to lead up to it. All of it is morally ambiguous for a reason. You're supposed to struggle with the decision and the situation. In the game, while hunting through the hospital, Joel comes across audio recordings of Marlene struggling with the same decision. She clearly doesn't make the decision easily. We get to see that. The creators knew what they were doing, and perhaps those recordings were a way for them to make gamers and viewers realize that. The whole time that Marlene had been making sure Ellie was safe, she'd just been treating her like a pig for slaughter.
Is it gonna happen?
No.
So can I go?
No.
I won't tell anyone about any of this. I swear.
If you're arguing in favor of Joel, you could say that his choosing to save a defenseless little girl was a pretty heroic thing to do. Him not allowing a bunch of other people to decide her fate would be a pretty evil thing by that logic, especially after having spent all that time and energy keeping her alive. So yeah, it's going to be a wild finale. Does it count as a twist ending though? Twist ending or not, it's definitely going to get people talking. And that's one of the signs of a story well told. Don't you think so? It's definitely an ending that puts everything that came before it into perspective. So if you're someone who already knows the ending, you've probably been reacting very differently to the show than someone who knows nothing about the story. I just hope this final bit is executed just as well as the rest of the series. That's all I have for you today on why the season finale of The Last of Us is going to be super controversial.